rounding third with home plate in sight. But even the best players need a coach to wave them in. Safe! Welcome to Perfect Game Retirement, hosted by Ryan Ledden, former pro baseball player, University of Georgia economics graduate, and now certified financial planner with Black Oak Asset Management. He's here to guide you through the final stretch and help you slide safely into a winning retirement. Play ball!
Welcome in. This is Perfect Game Retirement. Glad to have you on the show. Once again this week, I am joined by Ryan Ledden, president and financial coach, a certified financial planner as well, at Black Oak Asset Management with offices in Alpharetta, Macon, and Lawrenceville, serving the Atlanta area. We got a good show for you today. We'll be talking about just some questions you should be considering to get through these difficult markets. We'll talk about what Ryan's discussing with his clients as well. Plus, there's some things you might not realize that Ryan and the team at Black Oak Asset Management actually do for their clients beyond investing and some of the basic things. There's a lot more that goes into it, and we'll try to break that down today. Ryan, welcome in. How's the week going?
Week's good, man. I know there's a lot of social media spoofs on how busy May can be, and they're 100% accurate. I saw one of them was like, it's like December without the Christmas presents and the decorations. I'm like,
you're feeling it, huh?
Yeah, not wrong. But I think I handle it. I shouldn't say handle it, but it's more in my lane than my wife's. She doesn't like the helter-skelter types of schedules, but that's just the way it is right now toward the end of the year. And I got two kids who will be moving kind of up in the world as far as schools go. One kid will go to high school, and then one kid will go to middle school. So they're kind of making big adjustments next year. So a lot going on.
Yeah, big time of their lives and your life as well. Is there going to be a down month this summer at all, or any downtime at all to relax?
No, no.
You'll rest when you're retired, right?
Yeah. I mean, we're looking at the calendar, and I think I can't remember how many days of the summer it is, like 56, 58. I can't remember the exact number. And literally my daughter's softball team is out of town 37 of those days.
Golly. 56 is not a very long summer, by the way. That's
no. It used to be like 90.
Yeah. It happened to 3 months off. I don't know. But good luck.
Well, they have
to
all
you.
these holidays in between. Like they have little 2 days here, 2 days there. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
It adds up. Well, Godspeed, my friend. But in the meantime, we'll carve an hour out or 30 minutes out today to talk about some of these things that I think you've been discussing with your clients. And again, encourage you, if you have any questions, the best place to start is retireperfect.com. Again, retireperfect.com. You'll be able to find a link to connect and schedule a time for that free consultation with Ryan to discuss any concerns you might have about the market or whatever retirement planning questions you might have, or at least just begin building that plan. It all begins at retireperfect.com. Now, we mentioned difficult markets. It's kind of been the theme the last month, Ryan. We talked about it a little bit here, but Josh Brown, a CNBC commentator, he usually has some wise things to say about how you should react during difficult times in the markets. And he says that when you're dealing with a difficult stock market, the answer is rarely try harder. Instead, the answer is usually do less. And type A people usually have a tough time dealing with that concept. So I want to talk about some of the questions he says you should be considering during these difficult markets. And I want to see how you help people find the answers to these questions because they are so important. So let's lead off with this one. Am I taking the right type of risk? How do I know? So how do you help narrow down with people, Ryan, on what kind of risk they should be taking, how much risk, and what they're comfortable with?
Yeah, I mean, a lot goes into that. I mean, there's the psychology of these things is very different for people. And just you really need to throw out, I shouldn't say throw out, but it shouldn't be as big a piece of the puzzle of how old are you? And then, okay, if you're super young, you take on a lot of risk. Yeah, there's a lot of truth to that. But then sometimes maybe their savings rate is way higher and they don't need to take on that type of risk. So you just need to know what the bandwidth, or I like to say bandwidth because if you use the word standard deviation, you sound like a nerd. But what is the standard deviation of your portfolio? Well, most people are not going to know the answer to that question. Well, you should know the answer to that question. So that's where we're working with an advisor, again, whether it's us or somebody else, they should be able to measure that and say, hey, this is the range that you're going to be in. Now, again, there's the black swan event that no one can calculate in, but a big portion of your portfolio is calculations. And I know there's a lot of fear and all that stuff from a day-to-day basis or emotional basis, but when you look at a long-term 6 month, 1 year, and then continue on further out. It is more mathematical. So you need to know what that mathematical component or bandwidth or guardrails or, again, standard deviation of what your portfolio is. And if that downside is way too low and that's too painful, and you need to put a percentage number, but you also need to put a hard dollar amount to that number. Sometimes those numbers resonate differently with people. If they see, oh, downside's 30%, like, yeah, okay, I can stomach that. But when you see the dollar amount of how far your portfolio will go down, some people, ooh, that hits differently. So that's where you need to go over those numbers, but really know how much risk you are taking on. And it is a measurement. Again, there is a small element of day-to-day emotional risk, but long-term, there is a math component to this stuff.
Well, when he broke it out, he kind of asked two separate questions about risk, the right types and the right amount. So what's the difference between types and amount? What are we talking about when we discuss that with risk?
Yeah, I mean, the right amount of risk is going to be basically that capacity component, like how much risk can you take on? Not necessarily how much will you be willing to take on. Okay. So there's a different component there. So capacity. So let's use an example of a person who has way more than they need to retire as far as creating a retirement plan. And they know that. So the risk, their capacity, yeah, could they take on a lot? But they don't need to. Why take on a ton of risk if you've done all these scenarios and run all these financial scenarios and plans and your success rate is 99%. Well, that's good. You're going to be just fine. So why shoot for the moon on a rate of return if all you need is that 4 to 5 to 6% consistent rate of returns? Well, that's what you want in retirement. You want consistency, not volatility. When you're putting money away and saving, you do want the volatility. You benefit from the volatility. So there's a difference there on how much you're willing or how much you need to take on.
We're talking about how to kind of navigate these difficult markets here on Perfect Game Retirement. And if you have questions, if you aren't comfortable with the way the markets are acting right now and what your portfolio is doing, go to retireperfect.com, schedule a free consultation with Ryan. We offer you that opportunity right now. The link's right there when you go to retireperfect.com to find a time that works for you to sit down with Ryan and the team at Black Oak Asset Management and start talking through some of these concerns and some questions you might have. And one of the ones that the CNBC commentator threw out, Ryan, is if the bear market ends tomorrow, will I be positioned to benefit? So how do you figure out the answer to that?
Yeah, again, a lot goes to that first component of the measurement of it, but also you can run scenarios that shows what if the market does this, or if it has a, like you say, going back to the quote, says a bear market ends. Again, that means obviously a quote unquote bad market ends, and then we got this kind of free fall upwards. Are you positioned to benefit from that? Did you stay the course? Did you all of a sudden pull back and go to more safe type of investments, whether that's money market funds or bonds or whatever that may be? Now, if there's a run up in the markets, did you run for the hills? Did you run for cover, if you will, while the markets were down? Because that's where people usually miss out. When you draw that business cycle of peaks and troughs and all that, when that trough hits and it bottoms out and it continues to go up, well, people usually miss that first 25 or 30% uptick when the markets do recover. Then they kind of jump back on the bandwagon. So you need to see, okay, have you been rebalancing your portfolio? Have you kept it where it should be? Or did you really, really pull back the reins? And then when the market does have a run up, people usually jump on board way after the recovery has happened.
On the flip side of that too, this next question really is kind of a reality check. If the bear market continues all year, right, if it doesn't slow down and who knows what's going to happen, is this going to be a knockout punch for my current portfolio? I mean, that takes some real hard conversations probably to sort through that.
It does, and that's where you have to run these scenarios of way below market averages sometimes. So we can run scenarios that's way below or kind of the average-ish, if you will. And it's nice to see, hey, what if it above average market happens? That's cool to see. But I usually click a button and move off of that one pretty quick. Like, hey, if the market does better than expected, here's what you get. Oh, that's awesome. But no. Let's pull back the reins. Let's kind of go average or even below average. So if it's below average and we still have a pretty good success rate, then that puts people's mind at ease, because you can, again, software and technology is not a perfect thing or an exact science, but it does help help us as advisors kind of run through these scenarios of down markets, because there's a lot of scenarios out there where people will use an average rate of return, but they use that every single year. They use, I'm going to be conservative and do an 8% rate of return. Well, if you do that year over year, it just makes those numbers look artificially high. You have to bake in those negative years to really get a true picture. And maybe it is just for this year or whatever year it's going to be where that bear market continues on. You need to know, how far can my portfolio go? How far down could it possibly be? And that's where the measurement of this risk definitely takes place. And I even heard an interesting stat this previous week that the S&P 500 set a record for the last 20 years. It went up 9 consecutive days. And the 10th day, it finally ticked down just slightly, but it ticked down. But that's the first time that's happened in 20 years. So if people have been scared of this volatility the last, 4 months of this year, you missed out on that uptick. Now, I don't know the exact percentage it went up in those 9 days, but that's 9 days of recovery that if you were sitting on the sidelines or, again, didn't know your true measure of risk, and you missed out on those 9 days. And I know it's only 9 days, but still 9 days. And that's where people's rates of return really get hurt if you're sitting on the sidelines for those 9 days of recovery and then jump back in maybe when you miss those 9 days. So that can be a portfolio killer, if you will, if you're not staying the course and knowing exactly how much risk you're taking on.
Absolutely. All right, last question to maybe be considering right now, if you are worried about this difficult market and kind of the performance of the stock market in recent weeks and months, has anyone else been looking at what I'm doing? Am I talking to the right people, Ryan? And this is so important because if nothing else, it kind of gives you a little sense of peace of mind and knowing that, okay, I'm on the right path. I can just stick to the process.
Yeah, and that's where, one, communication, and two, education comes into play. When these markets do take a hit, we try to get ahead of it, as far as not by using a crystal ball and doing that type of trading, but is communication and getting ahead of it when the markets are bad. Don't hide from it. Don't address it. Just say, hey, this is what's going on. But if you want to know exactly what is happening in your portfolio, then let's have a conversation. We see this stuff on the news. We see this stuff on the headlines saying this percent down, this percent down. Well, you may not be that much percent down. So again, that's where the education of what you have and what you don't have in your portfolio, how you're engineered, if you will, what kind of income sources you have in retirement, what kind of debt you have, and just having conversations and communicating and educating that. And a lot of times it puts people's mind at ease, but that's what advisors should do. We essentially are educators and teachers. It's just a very specific area of life when it comes to their finances. So you got to have conversations with people. You have to address that. And if your advisor's not doing that, then that's a problem.
Well, if you don't know whether or not you're working with the right person, or if you haven't and you want to start sitting down and having a conversation, go to retireperfect.com. Again, retireperfect.com. You'll see the link right there to schedule that free consultation with Ryan and the team at Black Oak Asset Management. And for anyone that comes in with concerns, Ryan, if that's maybe the reason why they're coming to sit down and talk with you, what are some of the questions and some of the things you're discussing right out of the gates?
Yeah, a lot of times on that 15-minute conversation, we just want to hear where people are coming from and what questions they do have. We don't really get into the specifics of how much do you have. We have minimums of this. We don't do that. So we just have a conversation. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish? Can we help you? What are your concerns? Because some people have concerns that we can address on a 15-minute phone call, and maybe we're not the right fit for what they're wanting or needing. And we'll just let people know and be very, very candid with people. But if the conversation goes well and there's more in-depth, detailed discussion that needs to happen, then usually we schedule that hour-long meeting, whether that's in person, which we usually like to do because we have a few offices. So we like to meet people in person, but we get it. We live in a busy city full of traffic. And so if a Zoom is a better way, or just a long hour phone call where we got to conference call somebody else in who's in another area, or if someone's traveling, whatever that may be, but just having that conversation if that first phone call goes well and there's more needed discussion afterwards.
Very good. Again, it all starts at retireperfect.com, retireperfect.com. Check it out. Make sure you schedule that time to take advantage of that free 15-minute consultation. All right, we got a few more things coming up, including maybe some things you didn't know that Ryan and the team at Black Oak Asset Management actually do every day with their clients. So more to come right here on Perfect Game Retirement.
You don't need peanuts or Cracker Jacks to make this game exciting, just a solid financial plan. Here's Ryan Ledden with more of Perfect Game Retirement.
You're listening to Perfect Game Retirement. Glad to have you on the show this week. We discussed the markets a little bit. Now going to shift gears here in a minute and talk about some of the things that Ryan and his team do at Black Oak Asset Management that you might not be aware of, including, Ryan, write a book. You just did that recently, and we make that available to you listening to the show today free of charge, right? Just go to retireperfect.com.
That's right. We'll send it out to you. We just, there's a landing page. You go to, again, Retire Perfect, click on it. There's a landing page. You fill out some very high level information. We're not going to be asking for Social Security numbers or dates of birth or anything like that. We just need a good address to send it to. So, yeah, it's a book that we're proud of writing. It's called Diffuse the Retirement Threat. So it's a very step-by-step book. It's about 100 pages long, but it's kind of step-by-step to go through what you should do, and it gives you action steps that you can do at the end of each chapter, and then it kind of goes through a 7-step strategy as well. So we're proud of it. We like it. Hopefully, it's interesting. It's enough of a page turner, if you will. It's not a fiction novel, but we're proud of it. And it also has some supplemental materials in there that we can put in there to help you, through your phase of life that you're going through, but some useful information. We just need your address and we'll send it out to you.
Yeah, go to retireperfect.com. You'll see it right there. You can get the free book and retirement toolkit. Really highly recommend taking advantage of that, and we appreciate you listening to the show. It's just a kind of a free offer for those that take the time to check us out every single week right here. And I wanted, before we get into this, Ryan, on some things that you do, I want to answer a question because it ties into what we talked about here, and it came in from David in Ackworth. He wants to know, when it comes to the market, should I be keeping an eye on things or just turn off the news and ignore my retirement accounts until I need them in 15 years? It's
a great question, a fairly common question. Especially 15 years. I'm never opposed to telling people to stay informed. But yeah, it gets to a certain point where it is noise. That's what social media, that's what their job is to do, is to keep your eyeballs on them and to click on their articles. And that's fine. We all do that. I do it. My job, I sit there and look at articles all day long and read stuff. And some of it is kind of clickbait because you read the article that may be, or look at the YouTube video and I'm like, well, there's really no substance to that. There's no meat on the bone, if you will, when you read it. So, but that's their job, and that's okay. So stay informed, but yeah, get to a certain point where just turn the noise off and focus on what you are. And again, what you're doing. Again, if it's built into that plan where these kind of volatile times happen, this should not bother you. No one likes to see red numbers. No one likes to see negative numbers, but they're gonna happen. Period. It's going to happen. It's just how long and how deep does the volatility go. But for the most part, it's your portfolio. It's not the CNBC or Fox Business or whoever it may be. That's not your portfolio. You have a plan in place. Pay attention, but get to a point where you're turning that stuff off, especially if you're not needing this stuff for 15 years.
Absolutely. David, thank you for the question. If you have something on your mind, go to retireperfect.com. You can schedule a time to talk directly with Ryan. Easy to do, and take advantage of that free 15-minute consultation. Retireperfect.com. We have more coming up right here on Perfect Game Retirement with Ryan Ledden, so stay tuned.
Love what you're hearing on Perfect Game Retirement? Well, now you can take Ryan Ledden's financial wisdom on the go with the Perfect Game Retirement video podcast. It's available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, and it's an extension of the advice you trust on demand and anytime you need it. From retirement strategies to tackling taxes and everything in between, Ryan's podcast dives deeper into the topics that matter most to your financial future. Subscribe today and never miss an episode. Search for Perfect Game Retirement on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts and start building your perfect retirement plan. Or you can visit retireperfect.com. That's retireperfect.com.
You're listening to Perfect Game Retirement with Ryan Ledden. He is a certified financial planner, also president and financial coach at Black Oak Asset Management. Offices in Alpharetta, Macon, Lawrenceville, and we're here every single week talking about retirement planning, financial planning, and of course, getting into your business a little bit, Ryan. And I didn't know you did that. That's the theme of this final segment here of the show. I know many times clients don't realize everything that you offer, all the services that you guys provide for them. And I want to kind of talk through some of those today, because I think a lot of people just think, hey, there's a couple key things, investing, right? Maybe some income planning, but there's a lot more that you guys do.
Yeah, and we kind of joked about this before the show, talking about these topics, and I need to over communicate it even to my client base, because I still think there are some things that people either didn't know or forgot that we do, and so we are as comprehensive as you can get. And if there's some financial sector that we don't do, we can outsource it somewhere. But as far as these things we're going to talk about today, there's really nothing that we can't do from a financial planning standpoint.
All right, so let's run through a list here. Let's start with preparing tax returns. I think that's something that people just assume, hey, I got to go to an accountant for, or I got to get online and do it myself. But how do you help with the tax returns? Yeah,
preparing tax returns, that's something that we're super proud of. It's a new feature, if you will, that we've added in the last 6 months, I guess you could say. So this is kind of our first year helping prepare tax returns. We partnered up with a firm. It's probably been the most requested aspect of what people do from a finance standpoint, is helping people with their tax returns. Some people have a great CPA firm. Keep using them. We do not expect people to leave just because they work with us on the financial planning side. But a lot of people have asked us and said, finally, I'm like, okay, I got to have a good source for them. And a few of the referral sources that I have just don't take clients anymore. They just got out of the business. So we partnered up with a firm, and we just basically passed that cost on. So it's an additional cost. I'll be perfectly candid and transparent about that. But we just pass off the cost of what the firm charges to prepare a tax return. We just pass it on to them. So it's a great new feature that we're proud of. But we do tax preparation. We just partnered out and outsource it to another firm.
Yeah, that's great. And that's, again, something that you just began talking about this year. I know that's something that a lot of people have been interested in. And again, this is something you might not be aware of, which is why we want to talk about it today. And along those same lines, let's shift to tax planning. And this is a little bit different than tax preparation, obviously, but again, still so important when you talk about keeping as much of your money as possible in retirement.
Yeah, this is what is probably the most fun part of my job, is the tax planning portion of it and having conversations. I mean, there's so many different aspects when it comes to tax planning that could be just a complete show on its own. But all the different types of accounts, and not only what types of accounts and not only what investments you have, but what investments you have in those types of accounts can determine how they're taxed. You know, what are future, of course, we don't know what future tax rates are going to be, but we can plan if there's a rate hike or the same or lower. But we want to see what that looks like in retirement, because, you know, taxable income spills over into so many different aspects when you do retire. Medicare premiums, Social Security taxation, you know, just so many different aspects. And we know the tax code well enough that we can talk high level on how these things are taxed. But then also we have tax planning software that we can upload people's tax returns, and it, you know, AI reads it and says, hey, here's some potential opportunity that's being missed by doing this, this, and this. So that part, tax planning, big portion of what we do.
All right, we're talking about the things you might not realize Black Oak Asset Management does for their clients here as they serve the Atlanta area, and deciding when to start Social Security. A big one. I know this is something that is really close to your heart in terms of what you do and what you're interested in helping people with. But again, so important when you're trying to figure out income planning to get this decision right.
Yeah, especially for a husband, wife, spousal situation. I mean, there's so many different ways to claim it. And then you can run scenarios, again, with our financial planning software, of claiming it at 63 versus 65 versus 67 or 70. And it's an educated guess. Look, we don't know when we're going to die. So that's the biggest thing. But what are we trying to do from a legacy standpoint? So many different factors when it comes to Social Security. And again, taxes do play a part of that. Until they pass a bill that has Social Security tax-free, we got to prepare like it's going to be taxed.
All right, again, if you have questions about Social Security, please go to retireperfect.com. Schedule a free 15-minute consultation with Ryan. Talk about that, any other questions you might have as you begin preparing for retirement. Having a team that can help you with these decisions is so crucial to make sure you get them right. Again, begin with retireperfect.com. Another big retirement decision is Medicare. There's a lot of options out there, and you guys actually help clients pick the right one, right?
That's right. We have another advisor in our office, and that's what she specializes in. So, yeah, we only do Medicare plans for clients. We don't just sell Medicare plans. So we do it for clients because it is, they try to, they standardize it and they try to make it, as easy to understand as possible, but it's still very, very difficult. So we take people through that as well because there's so many, the alphabet soup of Medicare, and then you have Advantage and then Supplement, and just make heads or tails of that, but we do help people with that as well.
All right, pensions. Let's talk pensions for a minute. I know not everyone is still receiving a pension or has a pension coming in retirement, but for those that do have that option, how do you help them make the best choice on how to take that?
Yeah, we can run through that. And when it comes to making these decisions of taking a lump sum or a pension, it's usually pretty obvious. Like we just ran one last week or the week before, and it was like, hey man, this pension is legit. As long as they can keep paying that obligation the rest of your life, this is fantastic. So I couldn't really justify taking the lump sum and investing it and then having it as yours. Sure, it's your asset if you take home the lump sum, but even the joint and survivor option was so good that I'm like, hey, as we sit today, that pension, that's what I would take. Now, the good thing about this person is they don't need to make this decision for another 5 years, but where it sits today, the pension is substantially higher than if you took a lump sum and just took an income off of that while it's invested or put into an annuity, whatever that may be. It was the best option to take.
All right, one last thing. Again, these are things that you might not realize the team at Black Oak Asset Management can help you with as you prepare for retirement and build your financial plan. But final thing is estate planning. This might not be the first thing on your list, but for some it is a priority. But either way, this is another area that you help.
I wish people would take advantage of this more and more. We have access to an estate planning tool called wealth.com, and we offer it to clients who work with us. It's not an additional charge to use it, and this can save you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to go see an attorney. Now, some people still need to see an attorney. There's some complex situations. There's blended families, but wealth.com, we give clients access to it, and it walks them through what they are trying to do and accomplish. And you can put trust and revocable trust in there. There's so many different things you can do inside this tool that I wish more clients would take advantage of it. And they don't. We'll sign them up and I see their status and they create a login, and that's as far as they've gotten. So, but it's there to use, and you can create your entire estate plan inside this login. It's just, I wish more and more people took advantage of it because it's there for them.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, this is just a list of things that you might not be aware of, but there's so much more that you help with, Ryan. And I know, encourage anyone that wants to learn more about Black Oak Asset Management. Again, offices in Alpharetta, Macon, Lawrenceville as well. Go to retireperfect.com. You'll see a link to schedule that free consultation. Begin talking about these things, Ryan. And you don't have to be interested in everything that you guys do, but it's nice to have all that thing available because you want to have as many tools and options as you prepare for retirement.
Yeah, and that way people aren't looking in other directions for certain things. Well, I need this person for this person for this. We pride ourselves in trying to be a one-stop shop. There may be something out of our realm, but we'll tell you. We'll be up front and we'll help find that source that they may potentially need, but we do everything that we can in here.
Very good. Again, go to retireperfect.com. Also, take advantage of that free book, Diffuse the Retirement Threats, and the retirement toolkit that comes along with it. You can get that all at retireperfect.com. Well, that'll do it for us here this week on Perfect Game Retirement with Ryan Ledden, President and Financial Coach and Certified Financial Planner at Black Oak Asset Management. Ryan, as always, we appreciate your time. Hope you have a good week.
Thank you.
Information provided is for information